Disclaimer. Psychic abilities take different forms, and an understanding of those psychic abilities takes even more forms. This book presents clairvoyance as I see it. My perspective and tips will fit some of you, but not all of you. Some of you might learn a lot from this book, while others will find it useless. That's because there are many paths that lead to the development of psychic abilities. Those who can already use clairvoyance might be surprised with the content of this book because clairvoyance takes many forms, too. Please, keep these things in mind as you progress with reading. A word of warning before we begin. People these days are very interested in paranormal subjects, especially in their practical aspects. Psychic abilities are just one example. New Age books and workshops promote esoteric and spiritual techniques of various origins. Books teach communication with spirits and how to channel, as well as energy work of different sorts and such, but do not be blinded by the words of love that many New Age authors promote. Remember, where there is yang there is yin, as well. Light cannot exist without darkness, and esoteric/spiritual techniques are not 100% safe. As a spiritual worker, you enter a world of both positive and negative entities, energies, and events. Be sure that you want this, and be sure to know how to defend yourself against negative entities. Too many New Age practitioners have fallen into darkness simply because they thought love speech would protect them. But you need more than just love speech to survive. No author can take responsibility for depression, possession, obsession, paranoia, or mental and physical problems that may occur on your spiritual path. Neither do I. You are a sole creator of your life, but remember, please, spiritual development is fascinating and useful, just keep the safety rules in mind. This book, as it is not meant for total beginners. For those, I've written another book, Psychic Development Simplified. It covers the very basics of psychic development from meditation and subconscious mind work to the basics of energy work. If you're a total beginner, please refer to Psychic Development Simplified. There are many paths that lead to the development of psychic abilities. There are many schools of thoughts, many systems, many types of workshops and teachers. Choose the one that suits you the most. The art of seeing is meant for people who already practice the basics. They meditate, they work with energies, they reprogram their mind and deal with negative patterns such as fears, worries, concerns, bad experiences, and such. Seeing things through clairvoyance, seeing ghosts and spirits and energies like auras, is a complex subject, and, to be honest, might be very difficult to learn at first. But once you get the basics, all you have to do is to practice, and things will develop on their own. It doesn't mean that you can just sit down and wait. Clairvoyance cannot be developed just by practicing clairvoyant exercises. You must keep your general psychic development going. You must keep developing yourself on a spiritual level. Only then will your clairvoyance develop further. It's because energy goes up. If you have ever wondered why it is important to work with all the lower chakras and practice general psychic development before learning clairvoyance, here's the answer. The third eye chakra, which is responsible for clairvoyant perception, requires fuel in order to perceive through clairvoyance. And fuel goes from the lower Tantianan energy center through the first 5 chakras. So you need to develop your psychic abilities and spirituality steadily and gently for a few months, at least, before you jump into practicing clairvoyance. And you need to maintain proper spiritual levels of your personality if you want the ability to function without continual problems. You might be surprised by seeing that this manual is only 100 pages long, give or take. How can one explain such a complex psychic ability like clairvoyance in such a small book? Well, who told you that clairvoyance is complex or difficult, anyway? The truth is that clairvoyance is a very, very simple ability to learn and work with, at least in theory. It doesn't require too much explaining. On the contrary, I can explain clairvoyance within a few pages, and then provide you with exercises and ways of practicing your new psychic ability because it's all about practice. The difficulty of the learning process and practice that I've mentioned earlier is caused by forgetting about the basics, or by not being ready to learn clairvoyance in the first place. Keep this in mind, please. Once you know what to look for, and you know a few basic exercises and techniques for using clairvoyance, everything else is your own practice, mixed with reading books about astral and spiritual planes to gain more theoretical knowledge and keeping your personal journal/dictionary of clairvoyant perception. That's it. And that's why this book is short. There's no need for me to talk too much just in order to get a few more pages, because it wouldn't be honest. Clairvoyance is simple. Once you know the basics of psychic growth, most people can learn it. The trickiest part will be to understand what letting go means and what inner sight is, but you will learn this, don't worry. Finally, remember that this book, even if it contains a lot of theory, has been written from a practical perspective. I'm clairvoyant. I can see, so I do know what I'm talking about. Now, that's all for the moment. Enjoy the book. The Book of Theory. You can't learn practical aspects of clairvoyance if you don't learn the theory first. That is why the first part of this book will explain the theory, but it will also provide you with practical knowledge about affirmations, visualization, and relaxation techniques. Later on, in the second part of this book, you will learn practical exercises that will help you develop clairvoyance. What is clairvoyance? Clairvoyance is a psychic ability that allows you to see things that are either etherical, i.e., made up from psychic energies, or information received as psychic messages through visual means, as images. When you see things that are real but without physical form, then you are experiencing clairvoyance, an ability to see the unseen. As R.E. Guiley stated in her encyclopedia, clairvoyance is a paranormal vision of objects, events, places, and people that are not visible through normal sight. Guiley, p. 95. This skill is used by psychics to perceive etherical beings, such as spirits, ghosts, or angels, or to see energies and to perceive auras, chakras, or cords of psychic energy. Finally, clairvoyance is used by people who perform psychic readings. In that last case, the psychic does not see things that are actually out there, but he perceives information, messages, through visions. This book is meant to teach you how to see energies, entities, and how to receive psychic messages, because, in the end, all of this is just information. Energy is information, and information is energy. Clairvoyance as a term was created in the late 18th century by the followers of Dr. Franz Anton Mesmer, but, of course, the ability to perceive things on different layers of reality is as old as humanity itself or even older. The word clairvoyance itself is made of two parts, the French words clair meaning clear and voyance meaning vision. As a psychic ability, clairvoyance is a form of extrasensory perception, an ability to perceive things by use of the sixth sense or, to be more specific, by not using any of your normal five senses. Most people are clairvoyant, since most of the people have sight as their dominant sense. After reading this book and spending a few months practicing daily or at least twice or thrice a week, there's a great chance that you will be able to use your clairvoyant ability just as you use your hands. It will be natural. If you aren't successful, then either you have spent too little time working on the basics, meditation, energy work, the fundamentals of psychic development, or you're not really clairvoyant and your best psychic sense is something other than clairvoyance. I don't want you to waste your money, so, as long as these words should fit into a free chapter, here's a small test that will generally tell you what your dominant psychic sense is. If your dominant psychic sense is sight, then you will develop clairvoyance. Just be careful, no test is perfect, so coming out with clairaudience or clairsentience as a result of the test doesn't mean that you can't learn clairvoyance. To give you an example, I'm clairvoyant, and my primary normal sense is sight. But I can also hear things. I do have experience in hearing spirits. This tells me that if I would devote some time learning and developing clairaudience, I would be able to use the skill just as I'm using clairvoyance. Use the test, but decide for yourself if you want to learn and develop your own clairvoyant abilities. Exercise: think of a horse. Indeed, think of a horse. What did you experience? Did you hear the neigh of a horse? Or did you see an image of a horse in front of your inner eye? Or maybe you smelled a horse. Well, if you saw an image of a horse, then your primary sense for this exercise is sight. Continue this exercise with the following words: refrigerator, orange, cat, peace, harmony. If you're a visual person, in most cases, not really in all of them, you should see mental pictures as representations of these words. This might suggest you're a visual person. In addition, here's something that should help you define if you're a visual person. As Playful Psychic states, http://www.sipog.net/activepsi/book1.html number $4729314776. Visual people prefer a variety of sights and colors. They prefer pictures full of meaning, written directions, and maps rather than verbal instructions. Visual people say show me rather than tell me. They are able to imagine vivid pictures and scenes. They may imagine colors and pictures when listening to music. They also read books by picturing scenes more than by hearing the words in their heads. If you can clearly say that you're a visual person, then you can develop clairvoyance easily. But even if you're not really a visual person, you can learn clairvoyance to some degree, and it will act as a support psychic skill. You see, what I've noticed in my own practice is that clairvoyance rarely stands alone. In most cases, it comes along with some level of clairaudience and intuitive work when you simply know things. Today, when I say that I'm clairvoyant or that someone else is clairvoyant, I mean that clairvoyance is the primary psychic skill that is used to collect psychic information, but in addition, it is supported by other psychic skills that are more or less useful. Can people see things? Can people see things that do not have a physical form? Well, I wouldn't be writing this book if I didn't believe they could. Clairvoyance is a very popular psychic ability, but most people aren't even aware they can see things, which is interesting because most people are clairvoyant. I don't want to discuss if clairvoyance is real or not, or whether it is a delusion or a form of hallucination. For the purpose of this book, we assume that we aren't delusional and that we do have the capability to become clairvoyant. How is it possible that people can see things? Here comes the theory of multidimensional space. According to occult teachings from almost every corner of the world, the universe is made up of a few planes. These include physical plane, etherical plane, energy plane, astral plane, spiritual plane, and few other planes/layers of reality. Different esoteric traditions, from shamanic practices to Christianity to Buddhism, have their own cosmologies that discuss different planes of existence that exist at the same space and time, but in different dimensions. Physical senses can perceive the physical world only, but your spiritual/psychic senses can perceive the other planes that exist here and now. By developing your spiritual senses, you gain access to the etherical, spiritual world around you, and this way, you can perceive the unseen. In Christian cosmology, we have hell, earth, purgatory, and heaven. These are the planes of existence. In almost every shamanic tradition, we have the lower worlds where lower spirits exist, the middle worlds, earth, where humans and animals dwell, and the upper worlds where gods and higher entities exist. Theosophy, based on Hindu teachings, mentions the physical plane first, our world, then there's the etherical world, the world of psychic energies, life force, chi, prana, ki, mana. There are different names for life force. Next, there's the astral plane where energies and emotions create a mysterious mixture of chaos. Higher, there's the spiritual plane where higher beings exist. On all planes, we can find spiritual entities and etherical beings. And these are only a few examples. If you're interested in different esoteric cosmologies, you won't have any problem with finding the proper literature on the market. Now, let's get back to clairvoyance. Clairvoyant sight seems to be quite popular among people who, one way or another, work with psychic energies. This is not limited to people who call themselves psychics, and that's why this book is separate from a general how-to psychic development book. But in order to explain it further, we really need to define who's psychic, actually. Basically, what we call psychic development is a set of exercises and principles that can be found in almost any esoteric and occult tradition. The two principles of psychic development are: work out your mind issues, your negative habits, bad memories and experiences, worries, concerns, and all your negative emotions that are hidden deep in your subconscious mind. You work them out through meditation, affirmations, core images work, mystical psychotherapy techniques, etc. Improve your overall energetics 1 through energy work, yoga, tai chi chuan, qigong, and new energy ways. A psychic is just a term for a person who perceives more than ordinary people, a person who can receive messages from spirits or read information in energies and perceive energies and spirits. Therefore, we're not really talking about a medium who communicates with those who passed away, or with a person who gives psychic readings by using a crystal ball. I understand a psychic person as someone who can perceive the deeper reality of things. And I stand by my original thought that turned me into a psychic. Everyone has the potential to become psychic, and because of this, everyone has the potential to see things through clairvoyance. All you need is the basic foundation and practice. As a basic foundation, we need to understand the principles that I've mentioned above, working with your mind and working with your energetics. This book does not cover these subjects, as it's a book meant for more advanced energy workers who already practice the basics either from my other books or based on a different tradition, from Wicca to esoteric Buddhism. This book covers the second element, the practice. As such, it contains theory and practical exercises and tips that will teach you everything you need to know about clairvoyance. Every esoteric or occult path that focuses on the practical aspects, and not just on the theory, is a path that develops both your mind and your energetics. Every magical path includes elements of mind and energy work. That's why both a Buddhist and a Wiccan can learn clairvoyance successfully. The basic principle is practice. If you jump to clairvoyance right away, it might not work. But the more you practice your general esoteric, or magical path, the greater your chances to awakening your inner sight. So, as long as you stick to the basic foundation of practice and the exercises from this book, then you're on the right path to developing clairvoyance. But how long will it take to start seeing, you may ask? The honest answer is I don't know. My own psychic development took me 4 years, from becoming aware of the possibility to become psychic to actually learning the basics of clairvoyance. And I'm still learning, the learning won't stop. But I know people, as well, who managed to learn clairvoyance within a year, even a few months from starting their practice. So, there's no rule. As far as I understand this, it all depends on your path, your teachers, the things you learn and practice, and on the mind issues that you need to work out in order to improve your spirituality and energetics. But one thing I know for sure, in the end, everyone can learn clairvoyance. To what degree depends on the person and the amount of practice. But there's one more thing that you need to understand. It's something rarely anyone talks about these days. You're already clairvoyant. You see, as human, you're made of the physical body and spiritual bodies. Since we exist on all these spiritual planes at this very moment, we can perceive these spiritual planes. One of the tricks to do so is to silence the mind, for example, through meditation. But mainly through learning that you can really see things. You already did see them in the past, even if you don't remember it. As kids, we can perceive the spiritual planes. But then, society comes and we are told that what we see isn't real, that we do not have imaginary friends, and that everything is just our imagination. So we block ourselves. As a result, we cannot see anymore. The trick is to reprogram these false beliefs and learn how to see once more. Those who do not fall victim to socialization remain clairvoyant, and that's how most modern psychics grow, because society failed to persuade them that they can't see while, in reality, they can. Anyway, let's continue. Learning the basics, or the Fast Guy Guide. I understand that this book may be read by people who want to learn clairvoyance but who don't want to learn the basics of psychic development. I understand, also, that most of such people will complain that clairvoyance doesn't work and that this book is a fake. It surprises me that people want to learn how to write a best-selling book without learning to read the alphabet first. Alright, let's put this sarcasm aside. Some people are ready to learn clairvoyance without any previous need for psychic growth. It's natural. Some people are more skilled and gifted than others. But most people have to learn the basics first, before they proceed to learning clairvoyance. It's mandatory. I know, I'm repeating myself, but I wish to make things clear. Without the basics first, you might fail in learning and developing your clairvoyance. So, if you want to learn clairvoyance, you need to learn a bit about psychic development. You must learn about psychic energies and the life energy that flows within you, chi, prana, ki. You must practice some form of energy work, qi kung, tai chi chuan, new energy ways, yoga, etc. And, once blockages and subconscious patterns begin to re-emerge, you must work with your mind, affirmations, core images work, rebirthing, regressing, different forms of meditation. You need to learn basic abilities of grounding, centering, and psychic energy cleansing. You must learn about creating connection with other people as well. This book explains the basic abilities of grounding, centering, and cleansing, along with necessary skills for connecting with objects and people in order to perform a psychic reading, so you don't have to look for them in other books. But this book is not about general psychic development. For this, I refer you to my other book, Psychic Development Simplified. Alright, these are the very basics that you need to know. Pretty brief, isn't it? Just remember, if you're not a born-on psychic, and you haven't been born with psychic abilities, then you need to follow some school of psychic development, otherwise learning clairvoyance might be very difficult for you. Things that you can see. What can you see through clairvoyance? The world of energies that surrounds us is quite a fascinating place. It is said that everything is energy, and I have to agree. Emotions can be seen as energies, entities are made of energies, we have energies flowing within us, and so on. Before you even start trying to see, you need to learn what you can expect out there. The following list isn't complete. It's because I live in Central Europe, and let's be honest, I might not be familiar with all the energies and entities that can be seen, let's say, in India or South America. While the basic archetypes can be spotted everywhere, I don't think that I know everything. Because of this, you must keep your eyes open, as you may see things that I'm not even aware exist. But here are some things that you can perceive clairvoyantly. Energies in general. Basically, what we see clairvoyantly is energy. What we call psychic energy or spiritual energy is the same energy, just of different vibrations. Some energies are denser, and they create energetic bodies and entities. Other energies are gentle, and they form chi, or prana or ruach or ki, life force. Energies can be seen everywhere in people, animals, food, rooms, sacred objects, items, or just in the air. For example, you may look at food to see if it's energized enough to sustain you. Food is the basic source of life energy, chi. When food lacks energy, then even a big dish can't sustain us. Energetics of a place and objects. Rooms and whole buildings, or even open areas of space, have their own energetics. You can enter a room and use your clairvoyant vision to analyze the energies of the place. Of course, only if you can't sense the energetics in any other way. In such a way, I have analyzed the negative electromagnetic fields in rooms in order to know where to put special radionic devices to shield myself from negative energies. In a similar fashion, you can look at different objects, see which of them require energetic cleansing or which of them are very powerful magical objects. 2. Places of power can shine nicely, too. I was lucky to see a few such places of power and, I have to admit, the way the energies glow around these places is distinct from everything else around them. Auras. Living beings have something called an aura around them, a field of energy around a living being. This energy is generated and collected by these beings. Plants, animals, and people have such an aura around them, and you can perceive this aura through clairvoyance. Within the aura, you can see a lot of information about the person, so it's useful if you're thinking about performing psychic readings in the future. Inner body energetics. You can also see deeper into a person and perceive the inner energetics, chakras, energy channels, even inner body organs. As a Reiki practitioner, I use my clairvoyant vision to analyze the inner energetics. I see chakras, energy channels, nadi in Hindu, meridians in Taoist teachings, and inner organs. I can see what areas of the body lack energy, which chakras require energizing, and what areas of the body need additional Reiki transfer in order to return to a state of harmony. It's quite a useful ability. Beware. When it comes to analyzing the inner energetics, for example, inner physical organs, remember that as long as you're not a doctor of medicine, you should not make any diagnosis. As a clairvoyant, all you can do is tell the person that some area of the body or specific organ lacks energy, and tell the person to go and see a doctor. It's what I do when I spot problems in the inner energetics. Psychic messages. Another category of things that you can perceive by using clairvoyance is messages. In this case, you do not perceive energies directly, but you observe images, scenes, events, movements, and actions. Through this, you can acquire more detailed information, psychic messages, messages from spirits, spirit guides, or even telepathic communication. Our mind thinks through images, not through abstract words. When you think a horse, you see a horse instead of seeing the word horse. This is a form of clairvoyance as well. This time, you see complex imagery, and not pure energy. Spirits. Finally, the last category of clairvoyant vision is the capability to perceive spirits. There are different kinds of spirits that exist on the energetic planes. Below are some examples. Angels. Angels, as Christianity calls these beings, are a type of spiritual entity that performs different roles in the universe. Some of these entities take care of nature, others act as spirit guides, and so on. They're not necessarily pleasant all the time, and sometimes they may have darker energetics, but they are light beings for sure. In different cultures, angels have different names, but they're the same type of entities, always. Deities and gods. The world is filled with deities from different religions. You shouldn't be surprised at seeing a deity that you used to see only in paintings. Usually, deities can be found in areas where they are worshipped. It's quite possible to perceive, for example, bodhisattvas from Buddhist traditions. I had such an experience once, and I have to admit that seeing a bodhisattva is something quite fascinating. Different cultures have their own pantheons of gods, and gods walk among men. You can see gods by using clairvoyance. I suggest that you ignore them. Show respect, but as long as you're not a faithful believer of a specific religion, don't try to make any deals with gods. Ghosts. This is a category of spirits usually seen in haunted places or during funerals. A ghost is a remnant of a person. It is said that a ghost is a piece of emotional energy body that might remain on earth, thus making an earthbound spirit, while the soul goes back to the source. Anyway, don't play around with ghosts, as they're not as pleasant as some movies teach. Leave it to professionals. Nature spirits. These beings can be seen all around us, such as fairies that live in trees, rivers, oceans, and even your house. For example, there are elemental spirits of fire called salamanders. I remember once, when I was a beginner, such a spirit shouted at me when I wanted to put down the candle. Demons. Demons are a category of spiritual beings from the other side, the dark side. Don't be surprised at seeing them, but I hope that you won't see them at all. Astral critters. Astral critters, succubi, evil entities, negs, and so on, can be seen clairvoyantly. These are the lower beings. Like animals, they feed on life force, and generally they're not pleasant. Anyway, these are only some examples of things you can perceive through clairvoyance. 2 stories, 1 lesson. One of my teachers told me a story, passed to him by his friend. The friend was working in a supermarket, and at some point, she decided to open herself and look around to see what she could perceive. Not a good idea, as she did see something, a huge, energetic maggot crawling among people, sucking their energies. Not a pleasant view, I imagine. Now you can understand why supermarkets and big box stores have such poor energetics. Another interesting story comes from a past Halloween, when I decided to take a look at the world outside. It was dark already, and all these shadow entities flowing around gave me the creeps. They were there, flying around as creepy shadows, like ravens seeking their prey. Why am I mentioning these 2 events? Well, through clairvoyance, you can see many things. Don't be surprised if you see dark entities or creeping energies, it's normal. And you shouldn't be afraid of this. Also, don't be surprised if you are only able to perceive negative, dark entities clearly, and the energetics of places, objects, or people, but at the same time aren't able to perceive spirit guides or higher spiritual entities. At first, we tune into energies of lower vibrations, and it may take time before you are able to see more pleasant energies. Beware. Not everything and negative entities might have wings, too. Some negative entities may even shine like positive, spiritual beings, but they're not. On the other hand, some angels have very dark energetics, and while they're light beings, don't rush towards entities as if they're some kind of peaceful wonder, but gain knowledge and experience first. Only through knowledge and experience. Now one is physical and the other is intuitive, or as I used to call it, inner. People can see physically. I would be unable to notice any difference between him and all the people around. That was the most intense physical clairvoyance I ever experienced. Less intense experiences include seeing shadows and lights. Both are quite popular experiences all around the world. They're not really static, more like flashes. You see a shadow and then it's gone, but I could see it physically. I want you to really understand this type of seeing, so here is an example. After turning on the light, there's a flash of light, and within a blink of an eye, the room is dark again. This is a large-scale clairvoyant flash. In a similar fashion, other types of energies can be seen physically. Intuitive sight, inner sight. The second type of clairvoyance is intuitive. It's what I call inner sight. I call it this because it all happens in your head. It's real, but the images you see are shaped in the same area that creates images of your dreams and imagination. There's no eye work included. The images are shaped by your brain, and your brain interprets the psychic message